Hey guys, what's up? Bob here. Welcome to another Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile. So today, we're talking Fire Fist. These are 4-axis Fire Fist. It's, in my opinion, probably the best build of Fire Fist. That's definitely my opinion. There are other builds that you could potentially be running, but I think that this one's definitely something that I am comfortable running at basically your locals and stuff like that. So, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and look at it, and I'll explain why I made some of the choices I made, and what else you could potentially run if you're into that sort of thing. Like I said, this is 4-axis, so it does kind of get outpaced by some of the meta, but at the same time, you have access to a couple of cards that the other meta decks really wish they could have. So I think it's a pretty good compromise. We're going to take our time with this, no rushing through everything, going like, this is good, this is good, this is good, and done. I'm going to explain pretty much every one of my card choices, if I can. Hopefully I can explain them well. So, let's go ahead and move these spells and traps. Start off with the monsters. Monster lineup is pretty cool. I think I'm running like 14, I think. Yeah, whatever. I'll count it up later. Anyway, first up, 3 copies of... Oh my gosh, that was bright. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear. This guy's amazing. Basically, what he does is... I just said I wasn't going to say that. Anyway, basically what Bear does is if he attacks the opponent and they take battle damage, then he gets to search a Fire Formation spell. That'll usually get you a Tenki or Tensu, but it can occasionally get you a Gyaku, whatever. Anyway, he's pretty good just in terms of just being able to build up some advantage if you can move quickly. And he's also got another effect that's amazing. Basically, you can send one Fire Formation from your side of the field to the graveyard, and that will let you destroy one monster your opponent controls. Very good against certain decks, just being able to remove their monsters for almost free, because the Tenki searches him, and then you can pop stuff. He's really good. I would consider cutting him down to 2, but we'll talk about that later. Next up, 1 copy of Gorilla. Now, Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Gorilla is almost the same as Bear in that he can destroy stuff. The only difference, he destroys spells and traps. So what that means is you're going to be able to pop some like the... in my case, it was good against Monarchs, who like to have their field spell on the field, and then you just can't go into your extra deck. He's really nice for just being able to, okay, I'm going to summon him, send a Fire Formation, and get rid of your field. That actually helped me win a game against Monarchs because I was just able to top deck into him and kill them, basically. So that was nice. Next up, 1 copy of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Boar. Now, Boar is actually an interesting one. He's not super amazing on his own, but he's a tuner. He's level 4. So that means you can go into your Fire Fist, Kieran. And you can also go into Crimson Blader, which is a really good card against Monarchs right now. So basically what you do with him is you want to just sort of... you can either... Well, you have a couple of different ways to summon him, and he can basically just let you go into those power cards as you go. So he's really good. Next up, 1 copy of Dragon. Now this is something I considered bumping up to 2. I've got the other one... Where is he? Somewhere around here. Yeah, I've got another Dragon. Gosh, where is he? Here he is. I found him. Anyway, I considered bumping him up to 2. He's very good in terms of just being able to net you a lot of advantage. His 2 effects are, 1, if you activate a Fire Formation while he's on the field, you can search your deck for a Fire Formation trap card and set it. Now that's really good. It lets you get Tensin, which is a nice continuous spell, continuous trap that lets you boost up your attack by 700 and then another 300, so 1,000 total. Which is really nice for if you're just kind of staring down the gauntlet of powerful monsters. It lets you attack over them with Bear, build up some more advantage. His second effect, and this is the one that I end up using a lot, you can send 2 Fire Formations from your side of the field to the graveyard, special summon 1 Fire Fist monster from your graveyard. Now the nice thing about that is it doesn't come with any restrictions like his effect is negated or you have to put him in defense mode. You can put him in attack mode and just attack with it, which is really nice for getting Bear and stuff. And then Bear or Gorilla or whatever. It's also really nice because you can exceed into Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Cardinal, which is one of the most powerful cards that I am currently carrying in my extra deck. So, very good card generally. Next up, 3 copies of Coach Soldier Wolfbark. I used to have him at 2, but he's fine at 3. I haven't really had any problems where, drawing him when I didn't need him, or needing him when... basically, whenever you... He's really good. He's there when you need him, basically, is what I'm trying to say. He lets you special summon 1 Fire or it lets you special summon any beast warrior from your graveyard. Now, you usually use that with like a Fire Fist Bear or something, but you can very easily exceed into a nice rank 4. And as we all know, rank 4 Exceed monsters are currently some of the most powerful in the game, so having a 1-card Exceed is really easy. Or, yeah, really easy to build up a lot of advantage and stuff. Next, that's it for the Beast Warriors, I think, right? Yeah. But we do have a couple more monsters. We've got, what, 6 more? 1 copy of Performage Trick Clown. I could cut that, but I actually really like him in this. There's a couple of reasons. 1, Fire Fists always run Tensu, which lets you get an extra normal summon, so just summoning this guy isn't going to be like the end of your turn. And B, you can... 1 and B, yeah. You can basically just... when he hits the graveyard, you can bring him back. It lets you do all sorts of really awesome Xyz or Synchro plays, just because he's that, material that just keeps coming back. I mean, you can only do it once per turn, but, you can really easily build up a lot of advantage just by having a monster that doesn't go away so easy. Next up, and this card is actually one of the most important, in my opinion, 3 copies of Goblinberg. Now, ordinarily, you only see these guys run in, like, heroes and stuff, or, like, anything, usually warriors, basically. But Goblinberg is really good in this deck. A, because you get your extra normal summon off of Tensu, and so you can, like, summon another Beast Warrior in addition to your normal summon. So summoning this guy doesn't even take up the whole turn, but it gives you a really good way to get a Trick Clown out of your hand. You can just normal summon him, immediately go into rank 4, and start building up advantage off of that. Nifty thing with him is he's also an Earth type, which functions really well with 2 Glow Up Bulb. Now, Glow Up Bulb is one of my favorite cards. It's actually been one of the most valuable cards in this deck. Just to be able to first turn, if you've got a Goblinberg and a Glow Up Bulb, obviously that's a Nat Beast. Also, you can use it for Trishula plays, and it's really bonkers when you can get a couple of good Trishes, like a Trish and like a Nat Beast and potentially like a Castell or something, all in the same turn, and really just hammer your opponent, and they just don't really have anything to do about it. He's also got a nifty little effect that lets you, when he's in your graveyard, you can special summon him by discarding the top card of your deck. Occasionally, that'll be a Beast Warrior, possibly a Bear, possibly a Boar, something like that, which can set up your Wolfbark plays for later, which is really nice. So he kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Plus, he's those synchros are amazing. So that's it for the monsters. Like I said, if I could change anything, like if I could go into the past and change things, possibly drop a Bear for another Gorilla. Gorilla actually put in a lot of work, even though I only had 1 of them. So I'd definitely consider adding another. But other than that, I think it was pretty solid. Now, a couple of options that you guys are probably screaming at me about. First off, Red Resonator is an amazing card, I know. In the OCG, he's even better. Basically, if you don't know, in the OCG, they have a Fire Fist build. It's kind of like a 4-axis, but with the 3-axis combo pieces of Rooster and Horse Prince that uses Red Resonator. Basically, you summon him, and he's sort of like a Goblinberg. And what you do with that is you special summon your level 4 Fire Fist guy, and then you can go into Horse Prince, then immediately special summon a Rooster. You get to search another Fire Fist monster. And you can, after that, you can activate like a Tensu or whatever. Basically, the idea of it is that it lets you do the same power play that 3-axis does, but without using both of your normal summons, so you can still activate that extra normal summon later, which is really nice. The only problem with it is that I still don't think Horse Prince is as good in today's meta. So, like, once you hit that Horse Prince, what are you really going to do after that? Now, in the OCG, it's actually a lot better because you can run Caribou, and when you synchro for Horse Prince with Caribou and Red Resonator, Caribou lets you search an extra fire formation in addition to all the other effects that you've got going on. The only problem with that in the TCG is that you cannot, it's like a ruling difference, you can't set your Caribou to be Chainlink 2. So since it activates last, it actually makes your Rooster miss timing. And because of that, you either don't get to add a Fire Fist monster from your deck to your hand, or you don't get to set your Fire Formation spell or trap. And honestly, I don't look at that as being like as much advantage as it would need to build up to make it worth running. And of course, the other problem is you can't go Nat Beast, and it's a little bit harder to do Trish. And the third problem with it, this guy can be really cloggy. If you draw into him, he's kind of dead. He doesn't let you do any of your rank 4 Xyz shenanigans. He's a level 3. He doesn't really help with a lot. You can still Trish, but it's a little bit more difficult. And just at the end of the day, like the play, Horse Prince does, like once he's on the field, he just kind of dies. Monarchs can just attack over him. And even Cosmos can just pop him very easily with like a Dark Destroyer or whatever. And even if they attack him, which they probably won't, and you manage to flip up like a Tensu or something, or not a Tensu, a Tensen, even if you are able to kill something with him, it's like, it doesn't build up as much advantage as I would like to basically validate giving up like a quarter of your deck to cards that can potentially be bricky and don't really, I don't know, it's 4X's I think should just run the level 4s unless we get a ruling change and we can set Caribou as the chain link too. Anyways, let's go ahead and look at our spells. And the spell lineup here is, it's pretty streamlined I think, but it's also really nice. So first off, we're running Triple Tanky. Now that's pretty obvious, it is Fire Fist. Basically Tanky, if you don't know, and I don't know why you wouldn't know, Tanky lets you search one level 4 or lower Beast Warrior type monster from your deck. Now that lets you search any of your Fire Fist monsters as well as Wolfbark, so that's really good. Basically you're able to, kind of toolbox whatever you need. The other effect, and it's that's kind of the most, or not necessarily the most important, but just as important as the search, it stays on the field and increases your attack by 100. Now, the fact that it's a continuous spell means it can get MST'd or whatever, but on the other hand, it's used as fuel for all of your other Fire Fist monsters' effects. And because of that, you kind of need it. So, basically you use it, you pop it with Bear to pop an opponent's monster, you pop it with Gorilla to pop an opponent's spell or trap, you pop it with Dragon to potentially special summon a monster. It's really important, basically. Next up, Triple Tensu. Now you could drop this to 2, I considered it, but you can burn through these things, no pun intended, but you can burn through these things really quickly, and you want to have one on the field pretty much the entire game if you can. Now, like I was saying, like, you could drop it to 2, you can still search it pretty easily, but at the same time, I don't want to have to devote a whole play to the end goal of searching it. I would rather do a play and, have one in my hand, and then be able to search, like, a Tanky for the next turn or whatever. So, we're running 3 of it. I think it can get a little cloggy at times, but I think it's worth it just to know that you have 3 of them in your deck. And last fire formation for the spells is Gyokaku. Anyways, it's that one, the blue one. Basically, what this one does is you can, when you activate it, you target one set spell or trap card on your opponent's side of the field. You target that and make it so that your opponent cannot activate it as long as this card's on the field. Your opponent can't chain it in response to this card's activation either, so that's really nice. Basically, what you can do with that is if you're afraid that your opponent has like a battle trap or something, you can just activate this and make it so that they can't, Mirror Force you or whatever. And it, of course, can also be used as fuel for your fire formation or for your Fire Fist monsters. Now, that's actually pretty good just generally. So, and you can also use it while you have a dragon on the field and potentially start building up some more advantage. So that's nice. Next up, we've got 2 copies of Onslaught of the Fire Kings. Yes, we are not running any Fire Kings, but this works with the Fire Fist monsters as well. You can target one, or you special summon one Winged Beast, Beast, or Beast Warrior from your deck. Special summon it to your side of the, and it has to be fire as well. Special summon it to your side of the field, and its effects are negated, but it can still attack, and it's destroyed during the end phase. What you usually summon with this is either a bear if you've got boar in your hand, or a boar if you have anything else in your hand. And that can allow you to go into synchro plays like Kirin or Crimson Blader, or it can potentially allow you to go into Xyz plays like Tiger King or Cardinal. All of those plays are really good, so any of them is an option. This is it's basically just lets you get a monster right off the bat. The only downside is your opponent has to control a monster and you can't be controlling any other monsters, so it's basically like Cyber Dragon effect. But the fact that it allows you to get whatever you want is really nice, and I definitely think maining it is a good option. Sometimes it has been annoying, like against the Cyframe Yosenju guy, but cough cough, Cyframe Yosenjus beat me, and I'm sort of salty about it. Whatever, it's okay. They beat me twice in the last 2 times I went. Anyways, next up, double instant fusion. Sorry, this is really reflecty, but I need the light on, otherwise you can't see anything. So, double instant fusion allows you to summon Elder Entity Norden, which allows you to summon one level 4 monster or or lower monster from your graveyard. Basically, he's the most broken card in the game right now, and yeah, well, actually, is he? I don't know. I guess he is. He's really nasty, and the fact that you can just summon him for pretty much for free, it pays 1,000 life points, but you always get usually a rank 4 Xyz monster, or potentially some sort of synchro play going if you have Glow Up Bulb in the graveyard. It's really good. Basically, if you're going to use Trish, it's usually using that effect, or potentially a Wolfbark, but whatever. And Trish is really good, so, got plays. Plays for days! Anyway, next up, we've got one Foolish Burial. Now, Foolish is amazing because it lets you dump one card from your deck to the graveyard. Now, that is usually either a Glow Up Bulb or potentially a Trick Clown. Both of those can, of course, special summon themselves to your side of the field. But I've actually also found myself using it on, Boar or potentially a Bear. If I have a Wolfbark in the in my hand, that I can potentially start, doing some plays off of that. Basically, it just adds a lot of consistency to a lot of your plays, so I think it's definitely worth considering. Actually, I'd say that at this point it's staple in any sort of deck like this. Next up, we're running one Raigeki. Raigeki is just a really good card all around. It lets you destroy your opponent's all your opponent's monsters, which is really good. Just being able to wipe their field clean without targeting. There are some decks that can get around it pretty easily, but at the same time, it's got enough of an upside that even if they can potentially, come back from it, you're still going to be getting some sort of advantage off of it, generally. Or at least, setting them back a turn. That's nice. Next up, and this is the last spell, one Magic Planter. Now, I've looked at this at, 2 or... I haven't looked at it at 3, but 1 is enough, I think. Basically what it does is it lets you target one continuous trap card on your side of the field, send it to the graveyard, and draw 2 cards. It's pretty good. It's not, Pot of Greed level or anything, but a lot of times you'll find yourself with, a Fiendish on the field after they've used whatever monster you Fiendished to, Xyz or something. So, this lets you, A, clear that little spot, and B... gain some cards for your troubles. I've never really found it being a dead draw, so I think it's definitely good at 1. It's just one of those cards that you draw it and you're like, oh cool, I get some advantage, or at least I get an extra card. So yeah, I think it's definitely worth running. Like I said, I probably would not bump it to 2 unless I added in another dragon and another Tensen, which I probably won't do. But if I did, then I would consider running it at 2. But at the moment, 1's enough. So let's go ahead and mush these guys up, and we'll go ahead and show you the traps. So, traps. Our trap lineup is going to be sort of standard for the first bit, and then it kind of deviates from the norm of every deck ever as we go. First off, Solemn Warning and Solemn Strike. I have one of each. I think one of each is good enough. If I had another one of these, I might run one more. I definitely wouldn't run 2, because we're already running Instant Fusion and stuff. We're already paying a lot of life points. But one of these is enough. And then one of these is, they function together pretty well. It basically, if this hadn't been out, I would just be running one of these. So having a second one is just nice. But yeah, Solemn Strike is really good. It's only 1,500 life points. This one's 2,000. So, they function together really well. One Vanities. Vanities is amazing right now. I mean, it's always amazing. Except against Cyframe Yosenjus, because they just normal summon all this stuff, whatever. But yeah, Vanities, you can just flip it and basically make it so your opponent can't special summon. You, of course, do it after you've already special summoned all your guys. So, just make your opponent cry, basically. One Bottomless, because Bottomless is just a really good card all around. It lets you hit multiple monsters if your opponent Pendulum summons. It banishes, which is always nice. well, usually nice, I suppose. But it doesn't technically target, so that's cool. Next up, Triple Fiendish Chain. We are running the Triple Fiendish Chain because we're running Magic Planter. Fiendish Chain's really good. It just negates effects and makes it so your opponent can't attack. And, of course, since we can build up advantage off of it, I think it's better than, like, a Valor or whatever. If we weren't running the Magic Planner, then I would consider, like, Valor or something. But right now, Fiendish Chain's just always been good for me. Next up, 2 copies of Quaking Mirror Force. This is something you could swap out if you aren't necessarily all over the Quaking Mirror Force bandwagon like I am. But this is one of my favorite cards right now. Just being able to take all of your opponent's monsters and flip them face down and make it so that they aren't treated as anything in particular. Your opponent doesn't have access to those resources, and you can easily destroy them during your turn. Basically, you're able to stall out your opponent and clog up their spaces, especially if you don't necessarily draw anything that you need right off the bat. You can keep your opponent from summoning, 10 monsters. Like, if they attack with 3 guys, they're going to have 3 face-down monsters pretty much for the rest of the game, unless you choose to kill them. So that's really nice. And then, 1 Call of the Haunted. Call of the Haunted is actually really good in this deck, basically because you can use it to summon, like, a Norden or a Wolfbark and go plus off of that. It's also really good just because you're able to potentially use it on one of your Fire Fist guys and go for Cardinal. Basically, Cardinal is the card that I kind of built this deck around because it's really good. And Call of the Haunted just basically helps you achieve that without, utilizing too many cards. It's also another target for Magic Planner. After you've Xyz summoned with whatever you summon, you can just Magic Planner it and draw some extra cards. That's always nice. Especially if you use it on, like, a Norden in the graveyard. You bring back Norden, then bring back something else, then Xyz, and then you just Magic Planner and you get 2 cards from it. So basically you're turning, a Call of the Haunted and a Magic Planner into a rank 4 and 2 cards in hand. So that's really nice. And then last up, for the main deck, 1 copy of Tensen. Like I was talking about before, Dragon can search this, and it's really, really good. So, it's not even necessarily that it's really, really good, but just being able to get that advantage off of, a dragon that you already had on the field anyway can really help. And, of course, it's always another fire formation name that you can potentially just get rid of if it's not helping you a ton. It's also another target for Magic Planner. Basically, it functions really well with the rest of the deck. I think there are some builds that just don't run any of it. But I think if you're running Dragon, there's no real reason not to run it because, it is searchable and it's free. And as Ben Feingold always says, if it's free, it's for me. So, that's it for the main deck. We're going to go ahead and check out the extra deck and side deck next. And I actually have a decent side deck. It's not... I think it's pretty good. Anyway, so extra deck. 2 copies of Tiger King. Basically, he's your kind of main Beast Warrior Xyz monster that you can make off of anything. What you do with him, you can get him with like a Wolfbark plus any Fire Fist monster, whatever. But when you summon him, you can search your deck for a Fire Formation. Usually a Tenki, but sometimes a Tensu. So yeah, basically you can build up advantage off of him, and his other effects aren't super amazing, but the second one's actually decent. You can detach 1 material from him, negate the effects of all face-up monsters currently on the field except for Beast Warrior type monsters. And that's really nifty because you can potentially summon this guy when your opponent has, say you're up against Cosmos. You can summon this guy, detach 1, negate the effects of all your opponent's Cosmo monsters, potentially like a Dark Destroyer or a Dark Eclipser or whatever, and that negates the effect that makes it so they can't be targeted. Then you can very easily summon a Castell or something like that, and just bounce them back to the opponent's deck. That's one of your few outs to stuff like Cosmo, so having it in the deck is pretty vital. It's also super cool looking, so, that's nice. But that's not why we're running it. We're running it because it's good. Next up, 2 copies of Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Cardinal. You could drop this to 1, but I really like it at 2. What he does is you can detach 2 materials, then target 2 Fire Fist or Fire Formation cards on your side of the field or your graveyard, and 2 cards in your 2 face-up cards on your opponent's side of the field or in their graveyard. send all of them back to the deck. Now that's really amazing against certain decks that, rely on their graveyard or whatever for just, doing stuff. I actually ran into Ignites in just kind of a fun duel, and I managed to, after he basically used all of his cards and put them all in his extra deck, I just cardinaled his Scales, and then he wasn't really able to do anything about it afterwards. And Cardinal and basically just destroyed his monsters, and they all went back to the extra deck. Cardinaled his Scales so he couldn't, summon them. And then he ended up, I think he just drew another Ignite and lost. So that was cool. Cardinal is a really good out to a lot of different things that potentially, can make you cry. So I really like it. Like I said, you could drop it to 1, but I like it at 2. So next up, we got 1 Dweller, because we are running Norden, and Dweller's really good. It's, amazing against Burning Abyss, obviously, but it's good in a lot of different situations, just because you're able to prevent your opponent from activating stuff in the graveyard. So that's cool. 1 Castel, because Castel can send stuff back to the deck. It's basically like Cardinal, except for that it only targets one thing. But at the same time, you can make it with any rank 4s, any number, level 4s. There we go. I can word, I promise. So that's really nice. You can just, potentially use Trick Clown for that. And, you can just make nice rank 4 Xyz. Next up, 1 Silent Honor Shark, number 101, whatever. Really good card in general. You can just eat your opponent's monsters. One of them. He's also kind of resistant to destruction, so that's nice. It's a lot of people actually have been dropping this guy. I think he's really good. I could understand why you would drop him, but I've used him a lot, so I think he's good. And then last Xyz monster, 1 Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. Sorry if you can't see it, he's kind of shiny. But yeah, Dark Rebellion, he allows you to attack over pretty much anything as long as it can be targeted, so that's cool. And, his effect is awesome. So, yeah, he's good. Next up, we, of course, running 2 Norden. Now, I've actually seen people who run 2 Instant Fusion only run 1 Norden, and that seems like a recipe for disaster to me. Maybe I'm wrong, but it just seems like you'd want to have 2. And, of course, why are we running him? Because he builds up lots of advantage and wins games. Okay, I don't think we really need to explain anything else. Armades. Yeah, Armades is awesome. He's a nice level 5 synchro that you can make with a glow-up bulb and literally anything else. So that's cool. And then, of course, Nat Beast, who's amazing right now. Against Monarchs, if you summon like a Nat Beast and then flip a Mask of Restrict, which I did at one point, they really lose because they can't activate any other spells. Yeah, that's a nifty little, after you side deck first turn, just like, oh, well, you lose. Because they can't get rid of Restrict, like, at all. Next up, sorry about that, kind of threw him. Crimson Blader, and of course, Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Kieran. Those are my level 8 synchros. Crimson Blader's amazing against Monarchs. Kieran's pretty good just generally. Crimson Blader, if he destroys a monster, your opponent can't normal or special summon level 5 or higher monsters their next turn. And then Kieran is actually, he's really interesting. He's got a couple of effects, he's got 2 effects. When he's synchro summoned, you get to set 1 fire formation spell or trap from your deck, usually a tanky or whatever. And then his second effect, your opponent's monsters lose 100 attack for each, continuous spell or trap. Not necessarily fire formation. It also works with Fiendish Chains and stuff on your side of the field. So what that means is that you can potentially lower their attacks, and if you decide you want to cut like a Silent Honor Arc and you would prefer like a Ragna Zero or something, you put this guy on the field, and then all of their cards are susceptible to getting Ragna Zero'd. So that's really cool. And of course it also just lowers their attack, just generally. So that's cool. Having your opponent have less attack than you is always nice. He's only got 2,000 attack, but he does have 2,800 defense, which is a pretty big butt, so you can potentially just throw him in defense mode if you need to. And then, of course, main attraction, best card ever, Trish. 1 copy of Trishula, Dragon of the Ice Barrier. Of course, when you synchro summon him, you get to target 1 card, or it doesn't actually target. You banish 1 card from your opponent's field, graveyard, and hand. basically hitting all 3 of their vital points, and usually winning. If you trish somebody and they come back, you probably didn't set up right. But, yeah, it's really good. Oh, man, I said I wasn't going to say that. Darn it. Oh, well. I mean, that's one that I can genuinely say, like, this is really good, you need to use it. And it's really easy to summon. You have access to all sorts of, level 4s, and then glow-up bulb. So, yeah, he's really easy. Okay, so last set of cards that I need to talk about. Well, I don't need to talk about it, but I'd like to. So you guys are going to sit there and listen. Nah, I'm kidding. My side deck, this was mostly geared towards Cosmo and Monarchs. I didn't realize I would be playing as many Pendulum decks as I did, but whatever. We're running 2 Max C, because Max C is really good generally. I always put him in my side deck. 2 MST, just because you can hit, potential problem cards. I don't think I ever actually sided them in, even though I probably should have against Monarchs, but whatever. Triple Mind Crush. This is a really awesome card that I did side in a couple of times and never drew. So, there you go. But it's good against Monarchs and stuff, because they always have to reveal what they're adding. Yeah, it's neat. And then Triple Imperial Iron Wall for Cosmos, which I never played. But, it's really good. Cards can't be banished. Well, then you just kind of lose. And then Triple Mask of Restrict, because there are, probably a good 5 or 6 Monarch players at my locals, and I don't like any of them. And then 2 copies of Divine Wrath, again for Cosmos. I did play Cosmo Guy last time and I beat him, so I was like, oh, well, make sure I side against him. I don't want to lose to him. But I, again, didn't play him. Divine Wrath is really nice because it's, basically, it negates any monster effect, no matter where the monster is. So it can negate, your opponent's, farm girls or whatnot that banish themselves. You can be like, nope. No other card really does that, honestly. So, yeah, I think it's pretty good. Oh, God, I said it again. Anyways, that's my deck profile for, 4-axis Fire Fist, basically. It's pretty much bear.deck still. But you can make a lot of really, 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 really good rank 4 Xyz, or, all that other stuff. I think there are some changes that you could potentially propose, and I'm always willing to hear suggestions from, comments and stuff. But I am very proud of how this deck runs. I think it's pretty good. I play it a lot on YGO Pro, and I've had a lot of success. I went 3-2 today, and I went 3-1 last time I was at locals. So that's pretty good. Although some of the decks I was playing against at locals weren't super amazing, but it's always fun to see something like Fire Fist do well. And I think that if you can potentially find the right build that suits what you're up against, you can actually use this deck pretty well. It's got a lot of kind of availability to switch cards up and tailor it to your meta, which is always nice. So anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. There's I've actually got a nifty little holder thingy for my phone, so I could potentially do some deck profiles in the future, and that should be really cool. So, I guess I'm done rambling. I will see you later, guys. Bye.